any society, it's just important for us to reflect on what we've gone through so that we don't make the same mistakes as we move forward.
I have the privilege today to be speaking with R.T. Thorne, the director of 40 Acres. R.T., thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Greatly appreciate you, brother. And I love a lot of stuff in your background, bro. You got the Back to the Future back there. You got Frozone and
Thank you. Thank
Light.
you.
Beautiful, man. Great stuff.
Well, I have to say this genuinely, and you're going to hear this a lot. This film is brilliant.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that.
It's truly incredible. I mean, where did it come from? Why did you want to tell 40 Acres?
Oh man, I think it started, wanting to express something of my relationship with my mother. My mother is everything to me, and she really gave me the tools and the knowledge and the skills to kind of like move forward in my own life. And I wanted to tell that kind of a story. But look, man, I'm a genre kid. I love science fiction. I love thrillers, and so there was a need in me to sort of express that in that way. And I just kind of thought, one of the best things I can talk about is sort of this moment that I had with my mother that was very much about respecting what she was trying to teach me, respecting her worldview about what she had to go through. I'm not diminishing that, and give me the opportunity to move forward in my life, but also that moment where you have to, it's a universal conflict. You have to sort of tell your parents, like, look, I gotta figure this out my own way. And that was a moment that happened in my life. Literally, the line that is in the movie is something that I said to her. So I wanted to take that, and then I wanted to project that into, the highest stakes possible, and see what that combination would do. And in this case, it's a post-apocalyptic world where it's not if you stay out late in your curfew here, it's not that bad. But if you stay out late in a future where people might eat you, your life is on the line. So I liked putting those two things together, sort of a coming of age story and a post-apocalyptic thriller, and see what happened.
And that's part of the magic of this film, to be honest, is because the soul of the film really is that relationship between it's Manny. Is it Manny?
Yeah,
Manny and
Manny.
his mother.
Yeah,
But I want to address something here you said before
sure.
because you talk about genre,
Mm.
and this is a film too that wants to delve into history through the lens of genre, and this is something that has become more prominent lately. We've seen more of this. What do we gain about retelling history but through another lens?
Mm, mm. I think, look, I think the film is in conversation with itself, and I think as people, we have to be in conversation consistently with our past, reckoning with it. That's the way that we grow, you know. Any person, any society, it's just important for us to reflect on what we've gone through so that we don't make the same mistakes as we move forward. And there's a line that like Augusta, Hailey's friend says to her in the past, and she says, just make sure that, the fights of your past aren't becoming the fights of your present. You know what I mean? And we must learn from these things. So I think it's important to speak about those things. And for me, this film, I wanted it to be informed by history, um, but then projected into the future and see how these people are moving and learning and growing in the future. And that's for me, like, listen, I love a good revenge thriller. I love a good, those things are great. But I also want to leave you with something at the end of the movie. I want you to think about it, and hopefully I want to give you some hope as well. I wanted this story to be a family story, and it's really about their next chapter. Like, it's not, the film doesn't end, they save the world and everything's all good. It's kind of like, all right, now what's next for this family? And they have to grow through the film, and that's ultimately what I want to show.
Yeah, I love the fact that this is a film that is just focused on their lives.
Mhm.
They're not trying to, like you said, save the world. They're
Yeah.
just trying to save themselves. and this is where the true tension is. But I wanted to ask you this too, because
Sure.
there is a fascinating conversation going on here. You in this film you have multiple uses of faith imagery, which films
Mm.
do, but there's some very specific imagery, and it seems to be a conversation going on throughout the film. Why was that important for you to include?
I think, look, I'm a spiritual person, and I think faith is one of the things that lets us keep our humanity. In a world that gets really dark in places, and it can feel very dark these days. Faith is a very important component of retaining our humanity. It's an element that we employ when we look to community build. This idea, Hailey is a sort of a staunch isolationist and is somebody who is struggling with her faith, is somebody who has probably lost her faith because of all the things that she's seen in the world. And, she's not about community. So I felt like there had to be a conversation about how does she, how can she get that back if she can move forward? How is that a possibility for her? And it made sense to me that, her son who had grown up with her father in the early days, who was a pastor, who was somebody who spoke about that's an element that Manny has always carried within himself. And, sometimes it's while parents, oftentimes think that they're the ones that have to teach the children everything. I do think there's an absolute exchange that happens at a certain age where, you know, the younger generation can share something with the older generation, can remind them of hope, can remind them um, uh, of the importance of people, those kinds of things that sometimes the older generation can get jaded by. And so I wanted to have that as a component of the conflict resolution between these two characters. Yeah, so that's where a lot of that came from.
It's interesting you talking about this generational conversation. You talk about Manny and his mother, and you and your mother, and this. It is fascinating in this film, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but there are moments where Manny is right, and there's moments where Manny is wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because a lot of times when we see a film with a young person they're coming along, they're like, "No, you need to know how the world is," and the parents go, "Oh," but there's a reality here in
Mm.
this tension. And can you talk a little even more about that? Because there was this conversation going on about, you know, sometimes parents can't see the future, and sometimes kids can't see the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a great way of putting it, man. Because, my mother is, sometimes she used to tell me, it's the old story. Like back in my day, I used to walk 15 miles to get to school. You don't know how easy you have it, that kind of a thing, And so we definitely put a moment like that where Haley kind of breaks down the history of the farm. And I think that's very true. I think the younger generation, they don't understand the struggles that have come before them. They don't understand that. And oftentimes, an older generation, like I said before, can feel like they understand everything about the world because they've lived such a long life and they've seen how much they've seen and they think they have an understanding. But that is their experience, and the same thing for the younger person. That is their particular experience. And I think yeah, it's it's the they have to be in conversation in order to move forward, and ultimately that I think was the main thing for me is that I wanted to make a film that nobody was right or wrong.
Mm,
The world is more complex than that. You can't have all the answers. It's constantly a movement back and forth, and you have to make decisions within that are quite circumstantial. It's in this moment, this is probably the right decision, but that won't necessarily last for a long time. And then you have to be at peace with those decisions. So I wanted to make a film that didn't hammer you with, no, Manny's wrong or Haley's absolutely right. It can't be like that. So yeah, I think I'm interested in stories that are in conversation, that are not didactic, that are not just like this is the way that it is. And I don't, as a filmmaker, I'm not interested in telling people this is the right way to do things. I think it's much more interesting when there's dialogue about that.
I love that because this is a film where, like you said, there is that tension, there is that clashing of worldviews where nobody's really wrong,
Mm.
and that makes it so much more compelling. But RT, I know we've run out of time, so but thank you so much. I mean this genuinely. This is an unbelievably incredible film, and I
Thank,
wish you the best. Thanks
thank
so
you very
much.
much for that. I really appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you too. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.